What's up, golf fans, and welcome to the Golf Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm one of your co-hosts, Lucas Weiss, here with my other friendly co-host, Steve Risley. Steve, how you doing today?
Lucas, I'm doing great. I'm coming down off the monumental Tiger high that I think the entire golf world experienced this weekend. It finally happened. It happened in great fashion. It was very fun to watch, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about it in today's show, at least the first half of it. So I had to get some IV calming down fluids to end the weekend. But what a great weekend for golf in general. I mean, not just Tiger, but for the game of golf. Really something that the sport needed, and a big shot in the arm.
Absolutely. Well, let's get right to it then. Of course, the Tour Championship was last week. Tiger Woods, it was 1,876 days since Tiger had last won at Akron, Ohio. That was snapped this weekend when Tiger Woods won his 80th PGA Tour victory at the Tour Championship. And, Steve, Tiger's been competitive this year. He's been in contention at tournaments. We've talked about him at the Open Championship, the PGA, but he hasn't been able to close. And I think this week what really changed everything was solid ball striking consistently, but solid, consistent putting. And it's reflected in the stats where he was second in strokes gained putting for the event, sixth in the field in strokes gained off the tee. So those two facets of his game definitely came in together to get him this win.
It's always been said, I know Jack Nicklaus kind of made this famous when he said that the hardest distance in golf is the 4 inches between your ears. And the process of coming back for Tiger Woods, who's so focused and so detail-oriented in his game, and the physicality involved, walking 36 or 72 holes each weekend and playing and tinkering with your swing and getting it to where you want it. It's where a guy of his stature, his capabilities, wants it. I mean, we knew it was going to take time, and what was always encouraging was we were seeing flashes of brilliance in one area, but at no time during the course of the entire year until this weekend, as you said, was he able to put them all together into one 72-hole set of golf holes. Interesting thing about the putter. I mean, he made a big deal about leaving his old faithful putter that he'd used, his Cameron that he'd used for 13 major wins, put it away, brought out a mallet putter, which didn't look natural to Tiger at all because you always used to see him using the Answer-style putter. Then he tries a newer version of the Answer-style putter, and it's almost if it was a process like putting his Scotty in timeout and saying, if you don't start, putting better, I'm going to replace you. And the putter responded magnificently because what won that tournament for him was just the deadly putting. He was from 10 feet and in. I mean, he virtually missed nothing. And a lot of those putts were to save par, which when he's maintaining a 2 to 5 stroke lead over everybody, when you drain a 10 or 12 footer for par, it's real demoralizing for everybody else because you're thinking, okay, that's a better than 50% chance he's going to bogey that, and he's going to give me one back. But this week, Tiger, fairways to greens, he's been strong for a while. And he basically made that course look easy, I thought. It's a fairly benign course to begin with. I know the fairways were tight, and you probably have more insight on that because you were actually there. But there's not a lot of trouble, not a lot of water on the course. There is water on the course on a few of the par threes. But it was deep rough, but he was splitting fairways all day long, and he was hitting greens and giving himself, great opportunities to make par or birdie putts on almost every hole.
Well, absolutely, and you're right, Steve. I mean, East Lake, it was challenging this week. I was there, and I think the reason why it was challenging, it was fast. I mean, the greens were fast. It was a firm golf course, and like many of the broadcasters were saying, I mean, it was similar setup to a major championship. But Tiger was able to blow it out of the park with that, with hitting the fairway consistently and using those good angles to put himself in, good position. And I look at the final round. I mean, other than that 18th hole, which was just an unbelievable experience and atmosphere, it was rather anticlimactic. I mean, Tiger held his lead. It wasn't like he was flashy or making lots of birdies. He was just steady and grinded out there because the other guys like Rory McIlroy, he faltered playing with Tiger, and he didn't, he wasn't playing his best. Justin Rose, especially on that back nine, really was faltering with the putter, and there was a moment where Tiger could have won the FedEx Cup at one point. So when all those other guys were seeming to falter with the pressure, it was Tiger who was really doing some great stuff.
Yeah, I thought that was key because this is really his first win where he's really beat the new generation. Winning 5-6 years ago, a lot of these guys weren't really in their primes yet or anywhere near their primes. They were just coming into the game. But with the exception of Jordan Spieth, pretty much everybody in the top 15 or 20 were here. All the big-name players were part of this event this weekend, and none of them really mounted a legitimate charge at Tiger at all. It's almost as though they kind of wilted when they saw that he was up there. And I don't want to say that, but I was really surprised that somebody didn't step up and take a run at him. Rose did the best of anybody, but still he really, the last day, right off the get-go, he wasn't in contention really the entire day. He was playing for second place pretty much the whole way around the course. So it was interesting that Tiger effect of the crowds, of his intensity, his lore and legend, seemed to have an effect on him. It's a little point to where it almost concerned me just a little looking ahead to the Ryder Cup, is that I thought some of our guys that had been really hot, the DeChambeaus, the Koepkas, kind of faded away and vanished. Dennis Johnson, none of those guys were really factors in the tournament the whole weekend. And, these are guys that you're counting on to lead your charge into the Ryder Cup. And those guys really never factored into contention the entire 4 days at East Lake.
No, and I, again, a lot of those players really, Ricky Fowler shot a final round 65, but he was way out of this because of his 2 rounds, his, poor second and third rounds. Dustin Johnson, was, again, shot a good round when there was really no pressure. The Tiger was just able to, tune that all out and just focus on himself, and that turned out to be the case. But let me ask you this, Steve, because, taking, a bigger picture in all this, I, of course, was greenside at East Lake when he walked up 18, and, it's the crowds and crowds of people and the cheering. It was really surreal because I think for many of us, over 500 days, a year ago, Tiger couldn't move. He was, couldn't even walk, couldn't even swing a golf club. He was also arrested with a DUI charge. So pretty low of lows for Tiger. And to come back and win this, I hate to be prisoner of the moment, but I think this is one of the greatest comeback stories in all of sports, given, how Tiger not only moves the needle with golf, he is the needle that gets everyone excited about watching golf tournaments.
Yeah, I've heard that debated all since Sunday. This was considered one of the greatest comebacks. I don't want to say no, and I don't want to say yes. There's, when I think back of Ben Hogan almost losing both of his legs,
of course,
in a head-on car accident with a bus, and basically coming back and winning at Marion in the U.S. Open with his legs so heavily bandaged that they said basically after the round he couldn't even walk. He could barely walk around the course. And, there are always going to be great comebacks. His Nicklaus's win in Augusta in '86 after basically having been out of it for so many years and not a factor in the game, becoming pretty much a ceremonial golfer, is that one of the greatest comebacks. This certainly was a shot in the arm that golf needed. It certainly was a planting of a flag on the top of the mountain again for Tiger himself personally to overcome all the demons and injuries and the sidebars that he's had in his life since 2009 when basically he got into it with his wife over the issues there. And it all kind of started spiraling down there a little bit. I think it was a bigger comeback to the game of golf maybe than Tiger. I think there are a lot of us that really followed golf a lot, and you're included in that group. But I think we all really felt that Tiger would win again at some point. I don't know that I anticipated it to be his first win to be a major event like the Tour Championship. But I thought that he would come into some tournament and be able to put it all together enough where maybe there wasn't as strong a field, and he had a weekend like he ended up having, and would win again. So I thought he would always mount a charge and play competitive, serious golf again. And it's easy to say that now, but the fashion in which he did it, and the venue in which he did it at, and the jump to like almost winning the FedEx Cup on top of the Tour Championship.
Yeah.
And we knew it would happen. I mean, you were there. There was a polite round of applause for Justin Rose winning the FedEx Cup, and there was a booming roar for Tiger winning the Tour Championship. And the event, really, the signature event there is the FedEx Cup. Really, the Tour Championship is just a season-ending tournament. But we all knew how that was going to play out. I think that Rose handled it well, and knew it too, that it was going to be that way. But I think this is a bigger win for golf because ratings have been going down, sponsors have been falling out. The clothing lines were slowing down. Really, TaylorMade was the only piece of equipment, which probably is the only equipment that will sell now, because pretty much every driver in that tournament was a TaylorMade driver, except for maybe Finau and Bubba, who are pin guys. But other than that, it was a big win for golf. They said it was 200% higher than the ratings they had last year. On television ratings, and they actually rivaled the NFL on that Sunday. There was many people watching Tiger play as there was watching NFL games, which that's usually a backyard you don't go into. So I think for the game of golf, it was great. Now the talk's going to be the Masters. That'll be the next big thing. And Tiger, if he plays like he played this past weekend, he certainly has game to be in contention at Augusta National because, of course, is laid out perfectly for him. And having won there 4 times, he knows it. But it was a great comeback. To say it was one of the greatest of all times, personally for him, it probably was a great comeback. But I think the bigger winner here was the game of golf itself.
It was it was the largest FedEx Cup playoff telecast in history ratings-wise. That shows you how Tiger really moves the needle. And I mean, I was there greenside, as I just said, and you're right. I mean, Justin Rose, he's I would say here, in the U.S., certainly one of the, favorite Europeans because, he's a real class act type of guy. He's had a great year, obviously. But the roars were for Tiger. When they all just sprinted out to the fairway, I was concerned because, Tiger, he thought he was going to be trampled over, and he said, like, we can't run anymore. So, that was just crazy. But an overall amazing week and really happy for Tiger. Let's talk about, though. Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
No. Yeah, it was a great week for golf, great weekend for golf. I mean, I watched all of it. I mean, I hadn't usually done that. I literally watched it all live as it was happening. So, and we talked about the fact that Tiger was playing so well that Sunday almost became anticlimactic. It was more of a fact of it's almost kind of like you're watching a NASCAR race waiting for a wreck to happen. Although you love the fact that your driver's out in front, but you're just waiting for the yellow to be thrown and to bunch everything up again. And fortunately for Tiger, he never threw a yellow flag. I mean, he never, ever wavered. He made the putts he needed to make. He put the ball in play when he needed to put it in play. He didn't try and get all of his recovery back on one shot. When he missed a fairway here and there, he put it back in play and relied on a short game. I mean, he just did everything right. And it's a testament now that he can do that even at 43 years old. His body seemed to be strong enough. So I think now you got to look at the fact that probably one more major, maybe 2 more majors are in his cards if he plays like this again. But I think definitely 82 wins and becoming the all-time all-time leader
Sam
on the
Snead.
PGA Tour, past Sam Snead. I think that's very real for him to win 2 more times at least. And I think I'm not so sure now that maybe 1 or maybe 2 more majors are not in the camp for him. He's going to be contending a lot more now, I think. Because I think just mentally what this does for his confidence is probably as good as the physicality that is back strong and he's healthy and can play 72 holes of championship caliber golf again.
And 3 of the 4 majors next year, he's won before there. Augusta, Bethpage, and Pebble Beach. You were there at Pebble Beach in 2000
That's
when
right.
he won by 16.
Yeah.
So, the chances of him winning, I told you can't ask for better golf courses where he's won before.
Yeah, and I know Pebbles, of course, he'd love to defend on. He'd love to win it there again. I'm sure he would. Augusta, I know we know he wants to catch Jack in terms of 6 green jackets, and if he plays like he did, it's in the possibilities. There's just so much luck involved in that, about everything coming together right at the right time and getting the breaks that he got. But, yeah, those are realistic goals for him as of now. Maybe 6 months ago we wouldn't have said that, as we always saw some kind of flaw in his game, either putting or chipping or keeping the ball in the fairway or iron play. But the way he played this weekend, there's no reason he can't play like that again, because he looked like he did it physically with pretty much ease. He didn't seem to be struggling walking the course or taking swings or anything at any point in time.
Yes. Well, let's now segue, Steve, of course, into another topic that was discussed at the Tour Championship by PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan, and that, of course, is these new changes to the FedEx Cup point system. And for those of you who may not know, the Tour Championship next year is essentially going to be a scoring system where, based on where you're positioned heading into the Tour Championship, you're going to have a head start. So, for example, Bryson DeChambeau, who is the leader going to the Tour Championship, he would start at 10 under par. And then the other guys would be incrementally, couple shots back for the second place player, and so on until the 30th player would be even par, 10 shots back of DeChambeau. And overall, Steve, I like these changes, and here's why. I think that the FedEx Cup and the Tour Championship, these scenarios are so convoluted. How they determine who's, projected, who's leading and whatnot, it's so confusing for the golf fan. And I think that, for me, it adds a little wrinkle that this is the only tournament that does this sort of thing. And secondly, I think why they did it was also because they want the Tour champion to be the FedEx Cup champion. Last couple years, we've had the Tour champion, the FedEx Cup champion be different, and I don't think that's fantastic for the FedEx Cup brand because, if you're the Tour champion, if you win the season-ending champion, you should also get that $10 million. So I'm in favor of it. The players from whom I, spoke to at press conferences are kind of mixed opinion, I would say. I don't think it's a perfect system, but I think changes need to be made because the status quo is so convoluted about these scenarios on the final day of the Tour Championship.
Okay, well, here's what I like about it, and I'm going to jump over and take a little bit look at how the NASCAR playoff system works, and I liked how they modified their system to a degree. They basically they do the seedings based on points accrued for the season, stage points they call them. If you want to each race has 3 stages. You get points accrued for winning a stage. You get points accrued for winning the race, and you build these playoff points. They're called. You build them. You have regular points to determine the regular season champion, but then you have these playoff points you earn throughout the course of each race. You come into the playoffs, and then they take the top 16 drivers, and here, say in golf, you take the top 30, or you whittle your way down to it by using these playoff points, And then when they get to the top 16, you take your playoff points and you put them up on the board, and say Kyle Busch has accrued 56 playoff points, and say Chase Elliott has acquired no playoff points. So of the 16, the spread is 56 points. He starts off the Chase 56 points ahead, and ahead of Chase Elliott, and it's mixed throughout the system. It's very similar to what the PGA Tour is going to do to that point. Mm-hmm. They've adopted a system very similar to that. And then the bottom four in total points. Then you get your race points. You race 3 races, and then it's broken into quarters. You have 3 races. Again, similar to where they're going to have 3 tournaments now. And the bottom 4 are eliminated. Then in the second series, you have 8 and then 4. Then you get to Miami and Homestead to the final 4. Now, here's the difference. And this ties in a little bit of what you say about and what you think they want in terms of having the FedEx Cup and the Tour Champion to be the same person. When they get to Homestead, all the points are thrown out the window. Of the final 4 drivers, it's whoever finishes highest in the race wins the championship, wins the playoff. They use the point system to whittle it down to the final 4. And then when they get to that last race in Miami at Homestead, the points are gone. You start first, second, third, and fourth. It's how you finish. If Chase Elliott was dead last in the points all the way through, but made it through, but he wins the race, he ends up being the champion. Now, I see that it kind of takes away a little bit of the reward of getting there, but maybe you follow NASCAR's lead, and what NASCAR decided was we'll use the prelim races to compete to get to the opportunity to race for the championship. Okay, so maybe you take it to the Tour Championship. You say, we're going to use these point systems for you to compete to get to the opportunity, and we'll handicap the guys who have played the best and most consistent throughout the year, but this whole thing leads up to getting for the opportunity to play for the Tour Championship and the FedEx Cup. Once you get there, 30 players, best player wins. Best player that weekend wins it. So I kind of like that scenario, especially if you get a case like, you really would have liked to have seen Tiger win the Tour Championship as well as the FedEx Cup. But realistically, unless Justin Rose was going to fall on his face, that wasn't going to happen. There was no mathematical way it could happen. And there were other players that were mathematically eliminated from winning going in. Even though they were in the top 30, they had no chance of winning it either, winning the FedEx Cup. I think that when you get into a situation where you're playing for something, a prize and a trophy, that everybody that's competing should be eligible to win the Cup on that weekend. Otherwise, just eliminate it down to the top 16. Just everybody who's eligible to win plays. But the other way to do that, again, as I said, when you get to Eastlake, all points are gone. You put up your 72-hole score, and you have a playoff if you need to, and whoever wins that tournament is the Tour Champion, wins the Tour Championship for the year, and is the FedEx Cup champion for the year. And you use all the qualifying points to say, I had to play consistent enough to get myself in a position to play for a championship. And I like that. And I like that modification just a little bit more, of not giving handicapping to the guys on the final weekend and the final tournament. I think it should be a free-for-all and let everybody go after it. Otherwise, like I said, if your favorite player is Dustin Johnson, Dustin Johnson basically, after the first day, had no chance of winning it at all, although I guess technically he did because he was in the top 5 players. But there was guys that played themselves out of it on the first Thursday that were just riding along trying to collect a paycheck. Mickelson's a great example. Phil was a great example. And DeChambeau played himself out, although he was in the top 5. So had he been able to mount a comeback, but Mickelson, even if he mounted a comeback, wasn't going to be able to get high enough to have a shot at winning the FedEx Cup. So I would say just eliminate all handicapping for the Tour Championship. And all the handicapping goes to get you to the Tour Championship. You play consistent all year long, you got a little bit better shot of making it to the opportunity to play for the Tour Championship. But once you get there, we count all 30 people that are there as equal. And now because you're all to be here, you're all equal now. You're all here. Now go have a great weekend, have a Tiger Woods weekend, and win it all.
Well, for sure, because the current status quo, like you said, only 5 of the 30 players they control their own destiny. But why not make all 30 players control their own destiny to win the Tour Championship and the FedEx Cup? It just makes it more exciting for the fans.
Right. Or in like NASCAR, I mean, there are 40 drivers on the track, but the 4 that are controlling their own destiny, they're the only ones that have any say in the outcome anyway. Even if one of the top 4 drivers is qualified to win the NASCAR Nextel Cup, and if they won the race, they would not win the Cup. It's the highest finishing driver of the 4 that are eligible. So let's say Kurt Busch would come up and win the last race. He was not eligible to compete for the championship. It would be whoever finished highest in the race, be it Martin Truex, Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, or Kevin Harvick. If they finished 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, whoever finished 9th there would be the champion of the year. So there's a little similarity there, but it's determined up front that these are the only guys competing for the championship at that point in time. So you go into the Tour Championship and say, these 30 guys are the guys competing for the championship. Now it's an open field. We eliminated it down to 30 players, and now we're going to have a shootout for these 30 players. They're the ones over the course of the entire season with 125 eligible golfers, 125 more partially eligible, medical exemptions, everything. There's 200 golfers probably on any given year that take off and play in PGA Tour events by the time it's all said and done. Mm-hmm. But these 30 are the ones that have earned the right to come up to East Lake and play for the Tour Championship and the FedEx Cup Championship. So therefore, it'll be determined from those 30 golfers. Whoever plays the best that weekend gets it. I like that format a little bit better than handicapping and going into the East Lake.
Yeah. Well, I think we can both agree that the changes need to be made. I think it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out next year. But, yeah, it's going to be something to mull over as we, 1 year from now, this new format will be tested. But this week, though,
it's a step in the right direction, what they're doing. I mean, they're making it more simple. They're making it much more simple, and it's good. It's very similar to what, like I said, NASCAR does. I just would like them to eliminate any handicapping for that last weekend, so that if somebody comes up and gets hot, any one of those 30 players gets hot, has a great weekend, then the battle of all the points accrued is to get you to the opportunity to play for a championship, not to help you win. Once you get there, you compete against 29 other people. You should just be competing head-to-head to take the trophy home. And the handicapping should go out the door.
Because the problem is that, the 30th player is 10 shots back of the first player with this handicap system. And, can you make up 10 shots within 4 days? It's possible. But what if that first place person is going to a real one? It becomes impossible for you.
Right. And it just goes to show the player who played the best golf this weekend didn't win the FedEx Cup. I mean, the overall winner of everything should have been Tiger because he clearly dominated the weekend. And he got one of them. And he got the lesser of the two, although noise-wise generated, he got the bigger of the two. But obviously the FedEx Cup is the $10 million purse, which actually is an annuity. You don't get $10 million check. You get it. It's an annuity that you get spread out over years. So it's a $10 million annuity. But Tiger's got a couple of those, so if he blows every penny he's got, he's nice to know he's got $20 million sitting around somewhere in an annuity that he can always fall back on, huh? Don't you wish you and I had?
I think we all wish for that, Steve.
Yeah, we all wish for a $10 million annuity to get to go play a course like East Lake for free and get catered to while you're there, get your equipment for free too. Well, what's wrong with that job?
That's pretty solid life. But anyway, this week's Steve. Yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah. So obviously great week in the Tour Championship. Now this week, of course, we've been talking about it a lot on this talk show. It's finally here, the Ryder Cup at Le Golf National in Paris, France. United States and Europe, they're already there. They were practicing this morning in pods of 4. for the captains to really see, okay, you know, the type of pairing that we're going to put out there Friday. Steve, you know, this is a golf course. You know, it looks pretty good. It's cold there compared to Atlanta. They're in their jackets and their toques. But a lot of crosswinds, it seems, from hearing from the broadcasters. Do you have any, you know, pairing you'd like to see, or, you know, dream matchup? Because, you know, that's what we love about the Ryder Cup is the team event and the potential for some real star-studded matches, which I think we'll see this week.
You know, I don't really, at this point, I kind of want to get more of a feel. I don't know the friendships that well on the PGA Tour. Like, I know Tiger is very tight with Justin Thomas, with DeChambeau. I don't think you'll see Phil and Tiger paired up anymore.
No.
I don't think that's going to happen. I like more, like, I'd like to see, I want to see Tiger go against Sergio. I want to see those kinds of matchups. I want to see kind of more of the head game matchups now that Tiger's playing well, and see what Sergio does with that. Poulter against Patrick Reed is always going to be a good one. You got guys like that. Rory against Jordan Spieth. You know, I'd like to see. I'm looking more at the matchup between the two different teams and seeing how those pair up and things like that. Those would be more fun. But in terms of players on our own team paired up, usually you have to wait till Friday to see who clicks with each other and who plays well. It's hard to tell right now. I was a little concerned because I really felt some of our stalwart players did not have a good tour championship. As I said,
no.
Spieth doesn't even make it there. He's the lone Ryder Cup player not there at the tour championship. A lot of the guys, DeChambeau, Koepka, Fowler, you know, they just didn't look as crisp and sharp. And I don't know if that's a product of Tiger because, you know, he's just dominating something. You know, and Ricky does come back to 65, but it's a meaningless 65. He's so far out of it. He's just going out playing for fun. And I think the course invited you to do that if you had no pressure on you to do anything. And most pros like fast greens. They'll tell you, and they thought the greens were so true. But, yeah, I'm a little concerned about how lax or how uninspired I thought some of our Ryder Cup players played this week. I'd like to see them go into it a little more fun. You know, Rory fought. He elevated his game to the most point, but just, again, I think he just succumbed to some of Tiger's pressure. Yeah, just couldn't keep up. Then he starts pressing. But I thought Rory had a good match. European team, they're always scary because they drink pints of beer together all the time. And like I said, they come out with a focus of the team winning the cup, not worried about who individuals are playing with who or what's going on or some of the personality quirks a lot of times the Americans have, or, you know, not playing with Phil or not wanting to pair this guy with that guy, or I want to play with Tiger or Tiger. You know, we seem to worry about that more than the Europeans do. They just kind of quietly go over there and put some matches together, and they historically do a better job of playing to win versus us playing not to lose. It's kind of how I look at it in the Ryder Cup. And then when it going gets tough and then somebody makes a big 30, 40-foot putt, we tend to pick it up a little bit. But it's going to take a Patrick Reed or somebody like that, some fiery guy, Speed, somebody who's got some fire in him. I mean, you look at a lot of the guys, Dennis Johnson, Tony Finau, Ricky Fowler. Those guys are all pretty quiet golfers. They're not a bunch of noisemakers. DeChambeau and Koepka both are not really fiery golfers. So we never seem to have a lot of the rah-rah guys on our team. But, you know, it is interesting. The course does look like it's kind of cut out. Not a lot of trees on the course. It doesn't look like. I'm actually watching some of it right now, some of the live from. It does. It's very crisp there. A lot of sun. See how the weather holds up for them. A lot of water. Looks like there is a lot of water on this golf course. So
yes,
shot making is going to be a premium. You may find a lot of balls in the water on this course quite a bit, or a lot of risk-reward shots. Looks like they're going to be playing.
And I think, Steve, that, when you look at Ryder Cup, putting's so huge, especially, as you said, when you make those 20, 30, 40 putts, that just gets the crowd going, your team, gaining some momentum. And you look at statistically this year, the Americans have the slight edge in terms of, who are the better putters. And, of course, and listening to Phil Mickelson on TV today in his press conference, he said that, it's a golf course that, ball striking is important, but where you can really be aggressive is in the putting on these greens. So it'll be interesting to see if, we see some of those longer putts being made this week. I mean, I look at this. I think, you're going to see match, the pairing, Tuesday it's a little early to, for the captain to really see, okay, who are the good pairs. I think both captains have an idea. They want to start out strong on the Friday, putting out their, 4 bets group out there. I think Jordan and Patrick Reed will be playing together. They had a great Ryder Cup the last time in Hazeltine. A group I'm really excited about potentially on the European side is Rory and John Rahm, because Rahm is a big ball striker, and I think, he's one of the rookies on the European team. And I think, Rory and him, they just seem to gel together, because I think Rahm, he's really emotional. He gets fired. He gets passionate. But, so does Rory as well, but he can calm it down when need be. So it'll be interesting to see. It always is. And, of course, as you're right, the singles on Sunday, remember, both captains don't know the other's pick. So it's always, they put the list in private, and then they submit them. And that's always fascinating to see, do we get the Tiger Garcia or the Spieth Rory matchups?
Yeah. They have some idea where they're going to play things, but yeah, they that is a blind draw. The interesting thing here, I just was I picked up. I was watching some of the Ryder Cup highlights or the live from the Ryder Cup. The United States has not won on European soil since 1993.
Yeah.
5 consecutive
losses
time in Europe. Huh?
A very long time. It was at the Belfast.
Yeah, and actually they mentioned that John Rahm was born in 1994. So
yeah,
he's not even old enough that the last time the United States won on European soil, 1993 was the last time they did it. So, it's a tall order. Who designed the course? Is it a Pete Dye? It almost looks like a Pete Dye course.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely does. Don't know the designer off the top of my head, but you're right, Steve. We've been talking about it on the show.
It's got the railroad ties and the mounding and the railroad ties that Pete's become synonymous for and famous for. So it looked to me a lot like a Pete Dye course, which maybe bodes to the Americans a little bit. But, the European fans get rowdy, get crusty. They'll get loud. And, the Americans tend to think the game needs to be played more as a gentleman's game. And see how that affects them. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Tiger's in the fold. All eyes are going to be on Tiger right off the bat and see how he plays. That's going to draw a tremendous amount there. The downside is that coverage starts at 2 o'clock in the morning live.
Yeah.
So you're going to get most of it. You're going to get tape delayed, or you're going to be watching it all night long, which a lot of people won't be doing. But I'm sure it'll be rebroadcast on the Golf Channel during the day. But it'll be on starting at 2 a.m. Eastern Time, 11 p.m. Pacific Time. So at least I'll get to watch some of it before I go to bed at night. Watch a couple hours.
Yeah. Well, and then I think a lot of people, when they wake up in the morning, 6, 7 a.m., they'll be able to watch the afternoon session. So that way, they can catch some live action. But definitely for us East Coasters, it's not the greatest for the time change. You will have to be up all night long. But Steve, it's going to be awesome. The Ryder Cup always has drama, and I'm excited to see because we have talked about it, despite the American. There's always question marks about their teamwork. this is probably the best American team that they're sending over to Europe in quite some time, probably since that 93 squad. So hopefully they're able to, work, as you say, work for a common goal like the Europeans and just really shine in those big pressure moments to retain the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, I do not think this is going to be a blowout. I think this thing right now is 50-50. I think the fact that the United States hasn't won in five times since '93, I think weighs into their mind. I think the crowd, fan base over there is really going to be really after the American players, knowing that they're going to get in their head. I think they're going to be loud and crazy. We see what they are, the Tour de France and things like that, how the Europeans handle their sporting events and how they let the crowds, soccer matches, everything. I think you're going to get a lot of that. And I think, I tell you, I'm just more nervous than anything about how I think some of our Americans so uninspiredly played this past weekend at East Lake. I just really would have hoped that I would have seen all the Ryder Cup guys sharp, crisp, and on their game and right up on top. I mean, Patrick Reed wasn't a factor in the Tour Championship.
Phil Mickelson.
Mickelson wasn't a factor. I mean, Dennis Johnson wasn't a factor. Spieth wasn't even there. Justin Thomas wasn't a factor. Ricky was a factor, but he fell apart playing with Tiger. I mean, he got out there when Tiger lit it up and just fell apart and shot over par. And, I'm more concerned about that than I am really anything. Is this lackluster play this past weekend of the American players. They played a lot of golf. I mean, a lot of these guys played 4 straight weeks, and maybe that's another problem with the Tour Championships is these guys are playing so much golf. I mean, look at it. This is Tiger's, 5th week in a row of playing?
Yeah, he played
in all 4
of the last 6 weeks. 6 of the last 7 weeks.
Yeah, they took 1 week off. The whole thing took 1 week off. But, for a guy who was still nursing a tender back, that's a lot of golf. And then to get on an airplane and fly all the way across the country, change your sleeping patterns and habits and not sleeping on your own mattress in bed. I mean, that bodes for just jet lag and getting tired. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. We'll have a lot to talk about next week, that's for sure. I'm sure it's going to be a fun, exciting Ryder Cup, and we'll be winding down the season then. And we plan to keep the show going throughout the course of the winter, definitely a weekly show. But there's always events. There's always events happening. We got the Made for Tiger and Phil Made for TV thing coming up to lambast that and continue to butcher on that one.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, anyway, Steve, we're going to wrap things up here on the golf show. We'd like to thank everyone, of course, for tuning into the golf show. I'd like to thank Steve, my co-host. Of course, the Ryder Cup, Friday to Sunday, United States versus Europe. It should be a lot of fun, and we'll have a lot to talk about next week. Of course, you can find the golf show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network, and the Grueling Truth is on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Speaker, Stitcher, you name it, you can find the Grueling Truth. So, for my co-host Steve Risley, I'm Lucas Lee saying so long. You've been listening to the golf show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network, where the legends speak.